Hello everyone, this is Starry Ari's ASMR. I am Ari, and today in this video I would like to go through all of my plants and clean them up. I have been doing this every few months and just making it a video, but I usually like to do this anyways, to just go through and clean up any really obviously dead leaves, and it's also just kind of fun to just get a really good look at everything and kind of see how everything is doing. So that's kind of what I want to do today. I don't know if I have a playlist yet for all of my plant videos, but I might make one so that I could kind of group everything, because I've done some succulent show and tells, and then I've done a few of these types of videos before. And today I do have a couple of new pots and plants to show you, so that's kind of exciting. And as always, I am not the best at caring for my plants. I mostly have succulents because I like to have them on a windowsill where I don't have to do anything for them. And so I just kind of let them do whatever they want to do. And a lot of them, these last couple of months, have really gotten pretty big. They've really started to grow quite a lot, which is super exciting to see. And I think, as always, for any video that I filmed downstairs, so where I'm at right now, I think there's going to be some more background noise. We're also doing some laundry upstairs. My dog is over on her bed sleeping and snoring and panting, so I think that this will just be a good classic lo-fi video. So I have this little bucket holder cup thing that I'm going to use these tweezers to pull off dead leaves, and then I can just put it right in here. So that's what that is. And then I have a couple of little fertilizer supplements that I can add. So I have this one. It's just succulent plant food, and it's a little bit low, so I recently picked up a new one, and this is also by Miracle Grow. It's their indoor plant food, and this one says for cactus and succulent, so I think that this will be a good replacement of this one when this one runs out, but I'm going to try and finish up this one first. So I think I'm going to get started, and I'm just going to maybe jump off with this one here. And I'm going to desperately try and remember my plant names, but I'm not confident in a lot of them. A lot of these I've just done the Google picture to try and see what it says, and then I also have a plant care app, and that one you can also scan your plants and it will kind of give you what it thinks your plant is. But this one, I believe, is an Echeveria agavoides. I think it's called a lipstick Echeveria or something like that. And this one has been really quite happy these last few months, and you can see that it has some really pretty kind of a red purple color on the tips of the leaves here. So this one has been really thriving, but it does have a couple of little dead leaves underneath it, so I just want to clean those up, and then it should be pretty good to go. I only see a couple, and they just pull off really easily, so I only ever really kind of go for the ones that come off without too much effort. Oops, I didn't get that one all the way. There we go. And this one you can kind of see it's leaning that way a little bit. I keep trying to rotate it to keep it from leaning towards the sun too much just to try and straighten it out, but it's just kind of doing whatever it wants to do. Okay, and I think that's honestly it for this one. And I watered these earlier this week, but it has been very, very sunny and dry here. But I don't think I need to water it again. And I am going to give it a little plant food because I haven't done that since the last time I did this. I'm just going to kind of do little squirts around the soil, just like that. And now this one is all good to go. It's just so cute. This one I have upstairs in my office on my windowsill, and I love looking over at it because it's just adorable. Alright, let's move on to this one here, which as you can see is a mix of like pretty good and pretty sad. Now this one I think is meant to be maybe a string of buttons, but it's an incredibly leggy and woody string of buttons. This was one that I thought was pretty far gone, but then it had this offshoot that is doing so well, and it's so pretty and so cute. But these ones I feel like are probably just kind of dead. But there are some more obvious dead plants, like that one I think was a stem that just never really took, so I can clean that up out of there. And some of these, like, they're not really fully dry, so I don't want to pluck them yet because they could come back. I have had so many succulents that I am pretty sure are just like completely dead after maybe a stressful move, or I've had some that accidentally got knocked off the shelf and just kind of like, you know, spilled everywhere, and I've thought that they were dead and then they come back. So I never really want to like fully give up on a succulent. And I mean, this one, you know, is growing a new healthy offshoot, so it's so tricky. I'm not too sure how to like take clippings or like propagate this one. I've done that for quite a lot of mine, like these peacock echeverias. I have so many of them because they grow like crazy for me, and they just like take hold really, really well. But I'm not really too sure exactly how I'm supposed to do that for this one, but I think after too long I will probably want to do that, just to kind of give maybe this offshoot like its own little pot. But honestly, this one doesn't really have too much else that I want to take off yet. Like I said, these are all kind of sad. The stem is really woody, but I mean, every now and then it's like this one was really woody too. And there's like these really nice healthy leaves down here. So I've got no idea, but that is all I'm going to do for that one. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of plant food. Okay, here we go. Also, all of my plants I think have husky fur on them. Alright, and I think I'm going to do this next one here. And if you've seen any of my other plant videos, you will maybe notice that this is a new plant. So I got this back in early April, I believe, and it is a Crassula Moonglow, which I think is a really fun name. And this one I got at a nursery, and it was so sad looking. You can still see some of these plants, or the leaves had some big old chunks taken out of it, and now they're kind of healing a bit, and they've kind of like scabbed over, but it was just really kind of sad. And so I repotted it, and I've been trying to take care of it. It's been sitting in my office window because I think my office window gets the most amount of sun in our house. And so I've had it up there, and it seems to be doing, quite a bit better than it was. But I am excited to see maybe at the end of the summer how much better and how healed this might look. So I don't know. It does seem, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it does look like there are a couple of kind of diseased leaves down here that I do want to maybe try and clean up. And some real dry ones. That one. That one's still attached pretty well. That one's also still attached. And let's see, there are a couple of dry spots here on this stem. Try and take those off. But when I first got this one, I tried to clean it up as best I could. There were a couple of leaves that were looking like they maybe had some rot. So I tried to clean those off as best I could and just try and keep it from, spreading. See, that one is still attached there by a bit. That one was pretty dry. I think that might be everything that I'm kind of comfortable doing. I am trying to clean this up and tidy it up as much as I can, but also I don't want to stress it out too much more than it already is. So I think I'm going to call that good. I'm going to give it some more plant food, which I did do when I first got it. This pump is it's just barely any left in there, but I'm really trying to use up any that I do have left. Alright, and then that one is all good to go. Now I think I'm going to move on to all of my peacock echeveria, which I think is what these are. I thought that they were something different. This is a new pot, and it's very geometric, and it has these cute little wooden legs. And I thrifted this one, and one of these legs was actually kind of breaking off a tiny bit, but I was able to glue it, and now it is perfectly fine to use as a little window planter. And this here is actually a recent cutting that I did because some of my peacock echeveria are going crazy with all of the sunshine. I think they are just they are spreading, and I got quite a few of these kind of bigger bits. These, I don't know if you'd call them florets, or I don't know what you would call them, but they've really grown quite a bit from just the little babies. And so I trimmed this one off and just recently repotted it, and it hasn't gotten plant food yet, so I am going to do that to just try and help it take root. Okay, I think that's about as much as I can get out of that one with the pump. So I'm just going to pour a little bit in there just like that. And there we go. That one I think is just as good. I don't really need to do anything just because I had recently cut it, but I still wanted to show it because I thought it was so cute. And I think I might just keep going with my peacock echeveria until I get through them all. But this one here is in this metal, it's very tall metal container, and this is one that I or the one that I took that cutting from. So that one here and it was just going crazy. And you can see I have a couple of really, really big ones here that I probably should also like do cuttings for, but I don't have any extra pots right now, so I don't want to cut them if I don't have anywhere to put them. But you can see this one still has all of these little babies that are just going crazy. I've got some ones sprouting out over here too. They're really coming out. So this one really went pretty wild just after spring and all of the nice sun as we're going into summer. It is just thriving. But there are some of these little ones with some dead leaves that I can kind of clean up. I'm not gonna do too much just because there's like so much going on in here. But any of this really obvious stuff that I can clean up, I am gonna try and clean up to the best of my ability. Okay, that might be all of the dead leaves up. I see. Maybe one more there. There we go. Maybe one more here. I could do that all day and just go through this and be like, oh, one more. But I think that's all I'm gonna do for this one. I'm gonna try and give it a little bit of plant food right in the soil. Okay. I did accidentally just spill some plant food on my table, which is why I have this towel here. But that is this one completely finished. So moving forward, I'm going to use this new one. And that is everything I'm going to do for this plant. But I am excited to kind of see at the end of summer how far it's, going to keep going. I think maybe this weekend I might try and go out thrifting and see if I can pick up some more pots so that I can do some trimmings for these ones because they are getting just really, really big. Right, this is going to be another easy one because this is another cutting. And this one is all one stem and it looks crazy. It's got these florets going every which way and it is just like, it's just a wild. I did recently just repot this, so it doesn't really need any pruning, but I can give it a little plant food just to maybe help it along. Here we go. Alright. But this one, I did want to show this one because it looks so crazy and it's got this kind of longer one coming out this way. But I'm really excited to see how this one continues to grow. And it's always a gamble when you do cuttings, which is why I'm always a little hesitant to do them too. Because it's like, would I rather just enjoy it looking leggy and kind of awkward? Or would I rather take the risk and try and like repot it? So these ones haven't fully rooted yet, but I am hopeful that they will because, like I said, these peacock echeveria are just so hardy for me. And this here is another little planter with some more peacock echeveria that are going really leggy. And there's lots of them in these pots. And there weren't originally, but I did a few cuttings a couple years ago and it just spread out with a bunch of little babies. And then that is how I now have so many of them. Because they just keep spreading out like crazy. I feel like at some point I'm just going to have an entire house full of these guys. They are pretty, and I think honestly they are one of my favorites because I think that they look just so pretty and they are just such a gorgeous color. Like this one here, you can see is just really, really leggy. So I think it would benefit from me maybe doing a little trim. I'm just going to try and kind of fortify it in the soil there. This one is also real long. It's got a couple of dry leaves at the bottom. And these other ones are just so cute. I love the babies on these ones. Some pretty obviously dead leaves. Honestly, I do find this part extremely satisfying to go through and pick off dead leaves. Okay. And there's some of my dog's fur, inevitably. Alright, and you can see here I did a cutting off this edge for one of these little ones that was getting really leggy and replanted them in here. You can see the kind of scar right there. I don't know if the camera will see it, but it's kind of interesting just to see how things grow back. And it's got some little babies coming right off of it. Alright, so that's all I'm going to do for that one. And now let me do this one here, which is quite crazy to look at because it is going everywhere with all of the little offshoots and babies. But it does have some of these really leggy ones that have lots of dead leaves. And so this is one of those that I'm just going to do a good kind of quick cleaning. Oh, I accidentally took a fresh leaf. I really don't like doing that. That's why I try and be so careful with these little ones because they are just so fragile. I hate taking actual fresh, like living leaves. Kind of a big dead leaf I'm going to take out. I'm sure there are many more spots that I could clean up. I mean, all day on this one. But, oh, here's some really obvious ones down here. But that one is so fragile. I feel like I could just snap it accidentally. So I think I'm going to leave the rest of these as is and just give it some plant food. There we go, like that. And then I have, I think, just one more of that type of echeveria. And here you can see I did one of the cuttings. I might have accidentally said that they were from the other one. One of them was from the other one, and then one of them was from this one. And so here it's an edge, and you can see it kind of trying to root out, which it didn't have those roots before I did the cutting. So it's always kind of interesting, but it does have some dead leaves from right around where I did the cutting. So I can try and clean that up a little bit, and hopefully this plant will just keep growing, and it's not going to be too stressed out, hopefully, from the cutting. It's always my hope that Again, I have so many of these ones that if I did lose one, like I would be sad because I love them. And like this one especially has also really grown out. Like these two here are getting quite big. I really like this planter. Here you can see some more dead leaves. I only have indoor plants because we do rent and we don't really have any space outside to like have plants, but also where I'm at, I don't know that they would do very well because we have so many stray cats in our neighborhood, and we actually have one cat outside that we haven't tracked down where they're coming from yet, but we will take our dog on a potty break out in our little shared backyard area, and quite a few times when we've been walking back, the cat has tried to like follow us back inside, and luckily our dog doesn't ever really notice or care about it, and so she just kind of, you know, goes about her business. But like there have been a few times where it's like if we weren't paying attention, I think that cat would have just run right back inside when we were going in. And we obviously don't want that. We don't want, you know, a strange cat like hanging out in our house, and we don't know, like we assume it has a house already, but it just like desperately wants to come in. And we don't know if our dog's ever lived with cats. She does pretty good with my parents' cats when we go to visit, but when we first brought her to my parents' house for quite a few, maybe the first year that we had her really, we made sure that they were entirely separated. There was always baby gates and things just to make sure, because she is a husky, and huskies unfortunately are kind of known for like just suddenly being quite like little hunters and getting like that prey drive. And for the most part, she doesn't really have that much of a prey drive. But every now and then, you know, a squirrel will dart in front of us on our walk, and she's like, whoa, what was that? And so we did want to be really careful when we were introducing her to my parents' cats. And my parents' cats are much younger, and our dog is like an old lady, so they could easily outrun her, but we just didn't want to, you know, take that risk. And then my parents' cats eventually just started jumping over the baby gates, and we were like, okay, this is not really working. And it was just kind of funny. So I mean, I don't know if we would just like take in this cat because we assume it probably has a home anyways, but I just also don't necessarily want to trust that our dog long term would be fine living with a cat. Let's see, under this here, there are some dead leaves I can clean up. For the most part, this one doesn't look too bad, but you can see how leggy this one is. This one goes all the way down here, but it's just really kind of blooming out here. Okay. And there are still some kind of dead leaves down under there, but I'm worried about damaging any of these stems, so I'm just going to give it some plant food and call that good. I do really hope that this new plant food is just as good as the old one, because I do feel like the old one was quite helpful. Alright, and I think that that might be all of my peacock echeveria. So now I can kind of move on to some of my other ones. And this one is actually the same type, and it has clumps of my dog fur in it. But this is the same type as the wooden square brown pot one. I think that this is an Echeveria agavoides, or like the lipstick plant. And this one has some teeny tiny little bits of that red color coming out on the tips, but not quite all the way as much as the other one. This one is downstairs on a plant stand in front of our sliding glass door. It gets some sun in the afternoon, but not nearly as much as the other one. But the other one was a cutting off of this one. It was like attached at the stem here, and they were just kind of going in separate directions and getting a little bit too big to share the same pot. So I repotted that one, and I was so nervous about it because I loved how pretty these ones were, and I love the green. It's like an emerald green color. It's just beautiful. I was worried about that one dying, but it rooted really quickly, and it's just done so well. So I'm very happy about that. And you can see there's a tiny little baby over here that's coming off of like some of these under roots. So this one is growing. And I think my last video, there was just a tiny little green, like a couple leaves sticking out. So this one's gotten a little bit bigger. It's still obviously a teeny tiny little baby, but it has grown. So I am excited to see that. And it only has a couple of small little dead leaves that I want to take off. And that is all that I'm going to do because I do not want to touch that teeny tiny little one. I'm worried about just snapping it right off. But this bigger one does have, I think, at least one dead leaf. I'm sure it has more under here that I just can't quite see yet. Yes, there's another one. It's the thing with these, you do kind of have to get creative to be able to see under them. There's another one. Okay, I see one more down there. Okay, I think that's pretty good for this one. I am excited because this one was kind of growing at an angle out this way. It's still obviously off to the side, but it's at least pointing upwards a little bit more, so that is exciting to see. And that's everything I'm going to do for that one for taking off dead leaves. So I'm just going to give it some plant food, and there we go. Do this one here, and look at this one. This one is so fun. This is, I believe, the hens and chicks, which is like the semper vivum or semper vivium, something like that, or the common house leek. And this one has gotten so big. I think since the last time I did this cleanup, this one has just really gone out far. It's kind of crazy. So it's kind of exciting to see. And some of these little ones also aren't so little anymore. They're really growing out. So I think this is just such a good time for all of my plants, because they're all just doing really well with all of the sunshine. We do get quite a bit of sunshine in some of our windows, like I was saying, in the afternoons, like in my office. It's upstairs and it gets a decent amount of unobstructed sunlight, and so I feel like those plants have been doing pretty well, like coming into late spring and now moving into summer. Just taking off all of these lower dead leaves. Some on this side too. I think this is one that I'm just gonna do kind of my best And these hens and chicks have also just like grown really, really fast and super crazy, and I feel like they've been quite hardy, especially because some of these I got from an old client a couple years ago, and she just always had gorgeous plants and succulents. And one day when I went to see her for an appointment, she had done a couple of cuttings because we had talked about my succulents at home. And so she gave me a few cuttings of her hens and chicks, and I only had, like a couple, and all of the ones that I have now have all just stemmed from those few cuttings. It's really kind of amazing what succulents can do. I'm very excited about summer. We have some really fun plans, and I feel like summers are usually pretty busy just because we usually try and plan any of our like bigger trips or vacations during the summer because my husband has summers off, and so it just kind of makes it so that we're only having to work around my work schedule. Kind of during the school year, it's like much harder for him to be able to take any like real, vacation time. But we have a really fun one. I don't know if I'm going to share where we're going yet. I might after the fact. This one is really satisfying. Had quite a bit underneath the leaves of this one. I think these little babies probably also have some dead leaves that could be cleaned up, but I am not really gonna touch them very much. I'm just gonna give it some plant food and move on, because I think these ones are just gonna go crazy anyways. I think this summer these ones are gonna be really quite tall and quite big. And I think I will keep going with the hens and chicks because these ones look quite a bit more sad, and they are way more covered in dog fur because this is usually on the lower shelf on my plant stand, and so I think that's why they're a little more sad. But they are still growing. It's just that, some of these longer ones are kind of quite leggy and just like growing in kind of weird directions. And I'm going to try and untangle them. They're kind of like growing into each other. Try and untangle those. But this one is recently repotted into this pot from, I think, the next one that I'll show you, because it was getting quite tall, and so I wanted to repot it. Okay, so let's see. This one, there is kind of this like quite dead one here, so I am going to take that one out. Which, like I said, I don't really like to do that because I feel like I've had so many succulents that seem like they're really on their way out, and then they miraculously somehow come back. The rest of these have lots of little dead ones, like all on the really leggy bits, but they are so fragile that I don't really want to mess with them too much. I think that I can just snap it right off, and they're so leggy. So yeah, I don't think I'm really gonna touch this one. This one looks kind of sad, but it is what it is. They can't all be beautiful winners. Some of them have to look a little bit sad. Okay. And this one here is a mix, and the one that I said in the last pot that was a cutting, it was a cutting off of this one here, and just because it was getting really, really tall, and so I wanted to do a little cutting, and I probably should try and get down to the root of this one and repot it entirely into its own planter, because these were like completely dead. I thought that they were fully dead, and I was like, oh, whatever, I'll just throw them in a pot and just kind of see what happens. And lo and behold, they like came back, and they're beautiful. These ones were just from one of our neighbors was moving out, and they had just left out some succulents for people to grab, and this one looked really sad, but I was, like, I'll just see if anything happens from it. And this is, I think, a Hot Orthia turgida, and it is really cool looking. I love the pattern in the leaves here. I think it's really neat. And it had this little baby one come off of it, and it's really grown out into like quite a full part of the plant, so that's been really fun. And I don't think you can tell the sun is going away. But there's a teeny tiny little baby one underneath it too that's coming through. And so I think in the next couple months that one might really grow out quite a bit. But this one I feel like doesn't really have too many dead leaves ever. So I think that might be all that I really need to do. I might try and grab a couple more of these dead ones off of this one here. But because it's so leggy, again, it just feels a little bit more delicate and like I could break it. So I'm gonna leave the rest of that as is. It's also quite low in the soil, and I think I probably should take these ones out and just fill up the soil a little bit more. But that's all I'm gonna do for this one. And this next one is also, I think, one of my more sad ones. This is, I think, either a rat tail crassula, or I forget what the other, like what my plant app said that this one might be. But this one is a mixed bag, right? Because the last few times I've shown this one, it was just really sad and dead, and a lot of these like ends, I mean, it's still really trailing, and there's lots of these very dry kind of bits like hanging down. However, you'll see on so many of these, they're kind of coming back up, like they've got new growth. And so many of them, I thought that, last time maybe I should like trim some of these. I think I even said that. And then this spring, so many of them are growing upwards again. So like, I have no idea what to do about plants, clearly. But this one is really funky looking, and I don't really do too much of it or with it, because I mean, it has a lot of these like dead bits that I could probably individually go through and pluck off all of these tiny little dead leaves, but I think that would take me hours, and I think I would end up going mad, so I'm gonna not do that. And I'm just gonna give it some plant food. And I don't see any like obviously dead strands that I could trim off, because, oops, I keep knocking this over. Even these ones that are really, really quite brown still have some green leaves coming through. So I don't know, man, this one is really fun. I think this used to be one of my husband's favorite plants because he liked just how interesting. It's almost like a really boxy looking like strands, and I think because it got so dead looking, it wasn't necessarily his favorite anymore, but oh no, see, that just like fell right off. So these ones I honestly could maybe take off all of these. Yeah, that just snapped right off. Let's see this one. No, that one's hanging on. Yeah, so some of these I could probably take off, and this would be a lot healthier. But they're just hanging on really tight, so I don't want to do that. But this section here is doing really good and really green and pretty. So I'm hoping over the next few months, the more sunshine. Oh no, that one just fell right off. I'm hoping with more sunshine. And let's see if I can get this one off. No, I'm gonna leave it. Oh, that one came right off. Okay. Well, I think the rest of them are just kind of doing whatever they're gonna do. That one can snap off though. I am gonna try and take off because there are some of these really, really dry bits. But that one has some little bits of fresh green at the end, so I don't really want to take that one off yet. Let's turn it around and see this one. See, this one is really dry down here, but then it has this really dark, fresh green one that's just coming up there. So I don't really know how I can best care for this one. And just doing not a whole lot and just crossing my fingers. This one also is really dry through here, but it's got some little tiny buds coming in. And I'm just gonna call that good for this one here. And I think that this might be my last plant. And this one is, I believe, a moonstone. I don't remember like the official name for it, but it is growing straight out this way. It's getting a little bit better, but this spring I feel like it probably ended right about here, and then the last few months it's just like grown out and grown out and grown out. So this one is doing really well other than the just straight out growth, but I've tried rotating it and it still just keeps growing that way, and I honestly can't quite tell. I don't think there are any dead leaves off of this one. And I don't know exactly how I would take a cutting off of this one either, because I do think I probably should, right? Just to try and at least have this end bit that's coming out over here like in its own pot. But this is one that I do just still love, even if it looks funky. So I am scared to cut it, but I should probably just go for it. But this one I'm just going to give it some plant food, and I think that's all it needs. Okay. And I forgot about this one. I don't think I've done this one yet. And this one is, I think, my baby sunrose. And this is growing in really nicely here, but you can see there are quite a few kind of just dead bits here that need to be taken off. And this one, I feel like, has gone through a lot. This one was one that I think was quite stressed after we moved a couple years ago, and it just never really fully recovered after that. So I like to think of this one as my more sensitive plant, because I don't know entirely that this is actually a succulent, because it is quite fleshy and it needs more water. And I don't know if baby sunroses are considered a succulent or just a regular houseplant. I don't really know the different classifications of houseplants. Either way, I really like this one. one, because it has some pink in the leaves when it really grows out like this. It's usually kind of like this green and white, but right now and in previous years, it's also gotten this pink, and I don't know if that's good. Maybe that's not good, but I like it, so I think it's kind of cute. Just going through, cleaning up all of these dead leaves. This one doesn't really have too many, but it's just, it's got a couple on each little strand. Except these ones in the center are just looking really healthy. These ones here are just looking really good, and I don't think they even really have any dead leaves on them, but it's just these ones kind of on the outside that do. Okay, this one just has a couple more little ones. Alright. I think I might call this one good. This is another one that I'm usually a little nervous to do too much with. You can see the ends of these are where I maybe had to do some cuttings before because they just dried up too much. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this one is coming back this spring. I feel like it's done pretty well so far. And I think that might be all of my plants. I think this was the actual last one that I had. So I'm going to move this out of the way. So I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me as I cleaned up some of my plants again. And you got to see one entirely new plant, but quite a few new pots with cuttings. So I will hope over the next couple months that those really take hold and root well and just soak up all of the good sunshine of the summer, and hopefully will look very healthy as we move into fall. I'm always interested in hearing tips and tricks. If you care for plants, if you know what types of plants I have and you think I'm wrong, or if I'm doing something really drastically incorrect about taking care of it, I'm always happy to hear your thoughts. I have gotten some really good advice from doing these videos, and they just help keep me accountable because I want to try and take care of my plants so that I'm not too embarrassed and ashamed when I do the next video. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.